Hello, everybody. We're back. Let's see here. Okay. What is this? August 27th, Saturday. Should be starting page 29. Still have to finish a little bit of page 28. I was working on it kind of late last night. And I reached a point, I think probably anyone who does anything, but certainly anyone who draws can appreciate this. You can get to a point where you're just trying to finish. You're just and you are making terrible decisions and it's looking like trash because you're just trying to let's speed this up and just trying to make it happen. And if you're tired, if you're not, you can't make a thing happen sometimes. And that's what was going on last night. I'm doing a complicated thing. This is only a very minor spoil, but drawing dinosaur feathers. And it's a pain. It's just not the most fun kind of drawing in this book. So Frank, how's it going, man? So I was working on drawing dinosaur feathers and I was just wasn't looking the way I want. I knew it could be better. I was getting frustrated. It was getting late. And you start doing the math, how late do I really want to go to bed? Is this ever going to happen tonight? Am I going to get a second win tonight? Should I just call it and accept being a little bit behind tomorrow and just catch up? And that's the choice I made. I knew once I have a night's sleep and get a little food and coffee into me and start the day fresh, I'll be able to do this much faster. It'll come out better. And then I can move on to page 29. So that's the plan right now. I'm going to open up page 28. I'm going to finish drawing dinosaur feathers. And definitely be starting page 29 today, for sure. No good. And in fact, must, because I don't want to be too far behind. And I really need to get a jump on 29 today because this coming week is going to be a little bit of a mess. And I'm going to have to be extremely productive when I have windows because I have to finally do my, let's see, I think I have it right here. My traffic school because of the fancy white ticket I got. So the deadline for that is September 1st. I'm all signed up for the class. I paid for it. It's an online thing. I just have to sit down when I have 4 hours or something and do it. So I got to make time for that. That would be drawing time. Now it's going to be sitting and, whatever the F this thing will be. I mean, the only thing that has me not totally angry that I have to take the time to do it is I've never done a defensive driving class. This is the first traffic ticket I've ever got in my life. So there is a little bit of curiosity that's helping me not be just pissed. So it's all right, well, I've never done, it'll be a new experience at least. So there's that. And then Thursday and Friday, I got stuff going on where it's I know I'm not going to get a lot of opportunity to draw. Maybe a little bit Friday night, but I know Thursday basically not. And most of Friday, probably not. So I need to start 29 today, and then I need to really murder 29 in terms of productivity Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday at least. Every chance I get, and then hopefully be finishing it Wednesday. Or very damn close to finishing it. Second worst case, finishing touches Friday night. Absolute worst case, and I don't even want to, I don't like to even leave this as an option, but it will be the same thing as today, where I'm kind of finishing it up Saturday morning and moving on to page 30 next Saturday afternoon. I really don't want to do that. Looking ahead, this page also part of what slowed me down. It's a monster of a page. There's a lot of panels and a lot of stuff in every panel. Page 29, which I intend to start this afternoon, 3 panels, fairly straightforward. Like, I think for a week where I'll be tight and have a lot going on and not a lot of time to draw, of all the pages in the foreseeable future, like that's good timing, because it's like, okay, I mean, I'm not gonna have a lot of time to draw, but I don't think I'll need a lot of time to draw. So, okay, but gotta finish page 28. All right. Let's see here, I got some things in the chat. What do we got? Pop in, got wrestling. Excellent. I hope you have a productive day, Josh. Let's see here. Did you make progress on thumbnails? Went to bed? Yes. See, it looks like a bunch of us are in the same boat. Went to bed, got refreshed, a little bit of coffee, and like, all right, let's get this done. This fancy whites. Apparently not. They're like Scrooge McDuck, Frank. They're just like, there can always be more. Always more. They did, and they struck hard. It's such a, I'm sorry, it's such a scam. I shouldn't say that as a member of the law enforcement community, but $250 for going 52 miles an hour in a 35 when there was nobody else on the road. Let me show you this picture. I want to. I want you to look up here. Look at me coasting along. Not a single car in sight other than mine. I mean, on this giant, just open road where they've lowered the speed limit to catch people. This is $250. And this is, and look, this is another thing. I was just driving along. I was like, I must have been lost in D versus M thought. I'm stroking my beard and driving. And like, I knew what I was doing. Everything was fine. But again, like $250. Like, I'm fortunate enough to have I'm not like well off or anything, but I have a decent job. What do people do? Like, $250 is a lot of money. Like, that's crazy. And then the idea of like, oh, you can get a break if you go to traffic school for what is basically like $5 less. Oh, thank you. Oh, what a steal. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Oh, it just aggravates me. And here's the last thing I'll say, and this is very inappropriate for me to say, given my day job. I hope you feel good about yourself. I'm working on child murders and rapes and, gang shootings and stuff like that. But you go ahead and get those people going 52. You get them. Whatever. Anyway, last thing I'm going to say. That's it. Fancy whites. Okay. Ronnie, how's it going, buddy? It was a peak, and the universe was not having it. The fancy whites are not having it. It's like, this guy's having too good a time. Knocked it down. Paul, how's it going, man? I am. I'm the true threat. $250. $250,000 for 52 miles an hour. Sorry, I just can't. I can't. All right, let's get Illustrator open. Let's go back to drawing some dinosaur feathers. I hope you all got to enjoy on this very channel mine and Jim Lujan's top 5 movie video. We did a countdown of our individual personal favorite top 5 movies. I saw a few people in the chat it generated, like I know with Paul, it generated some conversation. I think that it was, I don't know if there's ever been a top 5 list on the internet before. Jim and I are happy to break that new ground. But it was fun. It was fun, and it was a fun video, and we're pleased with it. And we're getting ready. We're gearing up for the next one, which will be Thursday night, 8 p.m. So pre-Artcasters. Top 5 albums, personal favorite albums of all time. And I'm excited about this one because this is probably something I will reiterate when we do the actual broadcast, but I think music, like albums, tends to be way more individual. I think when you get to that tier of movies, like top 5 movies, there's movies that like everyone agrees on are great. Like maybe not everyone would have Empire Strikes Back in their top 5 like I do, but no one's going to be like, really? Like everyone's like, yeah, of course. Or like there's just some movies you just expect in a top, like everyone agrees is like they're very good. You might not have them in your top 5, but you agree it's very good. Albums are different. Albums, not only like it might be an album you've never even heard of, but it also, I think, gets very, very personal and individual, like in a way where I suspect almost no top 5s are the same with albums, where top 5 movies, like Jim and I really wondered if we'd end up with a lot of overlap, you know, because it just seems more possible with movies. Albums, no chance. And I was joking with Jim, I think this is going to help me as a very alt emo kid. Like when I look at my top 5, it's like, wow, it's revealing. But anyway, and I'm dying to see his too. And one of the fun things about these top 5 things is like, I have no idea, like I won't know what he's doing until maybe like 2 minutes before we go when I put together the deck. So like, I'm real excited to see and hear him talk about, because with Jim, I think I have a sense of what will be on there, but I don't know. And so that'll be sort of a fun surprise. Anyway, Josh, thank you. Yes, top 5 albums. Get ready. Jim and I are both, and that's why I think we started with movies. We're both movie nuts, and he and I end up talking about movies a lot when we talk, just on the phone. So that was like the natural. If we're gonna do this, like we should talk about top 5 movies. Way more subjective. Yeah. Like I said, I bet everyone in this chat, we could do our top 5s. I think there's good money, like a good safe bet. Almost none of us would have an album in common. And that's what's sort of fun about, I think, albums. It's also going to be a thing where I think it invites a lot more, like, what are you talking about? Where top 5 movies, a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't be on my list, but that's cool. Albums, it's like, really? That? There can be more like, I don't even know what that album is, or would never think of it as a top 5 of mine, or whatever. So, Squatch, this is work. This is work. You know what, Squatch? Talking to you is work. Think about that. Paying $250 for traffic school is work. Let's see here. Yeah, Limp Bizkit. I can say right now, no spoilers. There is no Limp Bizkit in my top 5 albums. I apologize to Limp Bizkit fans. There's no Creed. Creed doesn't make it. No Kid Rock. I'm sorry. Sorry to all the fans out there. Okay. But, and again, this is something I'll probably reiterate in the video. Because it's an all-time, there is at least one album that I can't say I would probably listen to beginning to end today, because I feel like it was a different part of my life. But there's like my favorite teenage album of all time that if you're doing an all-time, your personal top 5, it's like your first love, like you got to name it. So even though I may not listen to it today, for my personal top 5, it has to be in there. So there's stuff like that. You should think about that. In fact, I encourage you all, let's hear everyone has one, their absolute favorite album from high school. That's a great question, Paul. No compilations, no greatest hits. It's the only rule we could agree on. I wanted to also knock out soundtracks. No soundtracks. That Jim bombed. So I'm assuming there's a soundtrack somewhere on his top 5. But so that soundtracks are allowed, but no greatest hits and compilations are a cop out. And this is going to be my argument. An album is a work. That's a piece of artistry. It's a complete thing. It's not something you hit shuffle on. It's not something you break out into singles. Like an album is the piece. So this, like the top 5 is this album, this piece of work as presented. And so greatest hits is no. And I'm not anti-greatest. I've got some of my favorite things to listen to are some greatest hits. But for this, no, because it's very much literally albums, like as in the piece, the art, the collection of songs in this order, in this pressing. So Benz, how about that? Yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything, but Radiohead. Oh, and another rule is 1 per band. Radiohead is one of my favorite bands of all time, so you can expect a Radiohead on my top 5. Huey Lewis in the news. Look at this. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, not in 1,000 years would Fugazi be anywhere on like my top 5. That's not a diss on. It's just like that wasn't what I was listening to, and like Huey Lewis in the news. I'm aware of both these, Fugazi and Huey Lewis in the news. This is why top 5 albums can be fun, because it's like totally unique to that one person. But, okay, getting some drawing done. I will be checking in on the chat periodically. But it's hard to look at both because I have not set up a second screen. High school does feel a long time ago, Paul. I graduated in 93. So, oh my God, we're coming up on 30 years. 30 years. Crazy. I love them. I prefer them, actually. I don't like lesson stories. They'll make the... to be honest, I mean, if someone reads D versus M, I think it will be apparent to them that the kind of storytelling I'm into is just presenting something for the reader to grapple with and think about later and chew on. I'm not about like saying like, this is how it works. This is what's important. This is what I think. This is the lesson. I don't do that. And I'm not interested in that. Like, I mean, if you look at my top 5 list, there's very little of that, of the movies. There's a little bit. I mean, Star Wars very much has that. But, Star Wars, that's also like a carryover. It's a nostalgic childhood thing. But when you look at all the other movies, they're super ambiguous, super morally ambiguous. I mean, Last Temptation of Christ, Insomnia, Rear Window is a little sketch. You know, I mean, like, these are movies that, you know, so. Oh, bummer. Well, Ronnie, you're always welcome. So anytime. And if, like, I try to remember to drop a link with you, but if there's ever a weekend where you see me streaming and you didn't just, you know, give me a shout out in the chat and I'll get you a link. I read, when I was putting together my top 5 list, I was debating between 2 Scorsese movies of his, what I described in the video as his kind of confused searching faith movies. I was debating between Last Temptation of Christ and Silence. And I, just to kind of like get my thoughts going on and try to remember like what I liked about each one and everything, I was like reading reviews of Silence. And one guy, I loved the way he said it, and this goes back to Josh's thing. He said something effective. I'm not going to get this word for word right. It's something like, Silence isn't a movie that someone just likes or hates. It's a movie you experience and then grapple with later. And I was like, there you go. That's what it's all about. And that's the kind of art I like best. That's the art I respond to most, is something that makes you think about something differently, makes you question your own response to what you saw, makes you kind of, I don't know, I like to stretch a little bit, but yeah. Well, and Jacob's Apartment is 100% that. It's 100% like, I'm going to show you some things and they're going to make you feel things. And now you have homework. Like that's, I mean, that's a very stupid review, but that's kind of like the genre. There's many movies and books and comics and that thing, but it's sort of like, you know, here's some things for you to think about. And then what do you think about it? I don't know. You're going to figure out. I can't tell you what to think about it. You need to decide what you think about it. You tell me what you think about it. I mean, isn't that what art is? I think really the subgenre in art is like passion plays and parables and morale, you know, stuff that's like, here's the lesson, kids. Like Tortoise and the Hare stories are within the larger body of art that is just meant to make you feel something, I think. I'm thinking out loud, and that's always dangerous, but that's my impression. And I also think there's a quote from, I'm actually working right now, Squatch. There's a quote from Roger Ebert that I always kind of love, that he felt, there's something about why he loves movies, or how he would define movies. And he said something like, movies are a machine that makes empathy. And while I don't think you can't say like art is something that creates empathy. Like I think art is broader than that. There is something about, I think, art being something that elicits something from you. But this is the last thing I'm going to say on this topic. We don't talk a lot about the responsibility of the, whatever you want to call the receiver of the art, the reader or the watcher or the consumer or whatever you want to say. Like you need to bring something to the experience too. You can't, like you can all picture a 12-year-old with their earbuds in, walking through the Louvre and not having any kind of an experience. Like art in and of itself, like that's one half of an experience. I can make the most beautiful or interesting or complicated or weird thing. But if you're not sitting there in the mindset to receive it, then nothing happens. Like it's very much a relationship. So I think that's sometimes why art falls flat with some people. They're just not in the right headspace, or they don't know how to approach it. They don't even understand like what this thing is supposed to be doing. They're not the right Lego piece for this to fit together or something. So Squatch, that's outrageous. I'm gonna ban you. You're banned. Banned forever. All right. Dinosaur Feathers. This, the plan for next year is to get a new Mac. Mine is fairly old. I think it's a 2013. And I'm starting to feel it. It chugs. And like right now, like in my artboard in Illustrator, I've got these images for reference of like different kinds of feathers, like emu feathers and crow feathers and cassowary feathers, like all these kinds of strange feathers that I think like I'm using to kind of figure out what I think these feathers on this dinosaur looks like. And just having a complicated Illustrator page with art on it, and then these big images of like high-res bird feathers, every time I do anything, there's sometimes like a chug to it, which sucks and is also alarming, as anyone who's ever done this knows. Like you're always wondering, like, I hope it just doesn't crash. Like, and so I'm constantly saving. But I would like to get to a point where I've got this mostly going and I can delete all these reference images because I've got a ballpark thing going on. I feel it. Worst movie that almost made my top 5. Crazy Summer. That's a good question. I don't know if I still have my... That's a good question, and I don't have my giant master list in it. Like in my first pass where I went through my collection and came up with... Let me think about that while I draw Dinosaur Feathers. Worst movie that was in the running, because I love it. You're assuming incorrectly because Shaft isn't a bad movie. Shaft is fantastic. You know what? It would probably be, I don't know. I'd have to think about this more, but it would probably be something like Enter the Dragon, which I love. I love Bruce Lee. I love Bruce Lee movies. Almost any Bruce Lee movie I would pick, I have to admit, isn't a particularly great movie. It's all about just his charisma and his athleticism and like the fight choreography. That's all it's about. They're not good movies. Like they're not. You can't call, Chinese Connection or Return of the Dragon like a great film. Like it's it's a popcorn movie and it's not particularly good. It's all about seeing him. It's all about seeing him be super fast and a super badass. So probably some kind of Bruce Lee. I would have to go through the Bruce Lee collection again and figure out like which would be the one I would pick. I'm blanking on the name of it because they all change. Like there's like the Hong Kong name and then there's the name when it was released here, and it always confuses me. And I'm rusty on my Bruce Lee, but the one where it's like rival, there's a Japanese school and a Chinese school. It's set in like maybe late 1800s or something. It's the iconic one where he goes and he confronts like the entire dojo of Japanese and just takes them all on. That probably would be my favorite. I think that's like kind of it's got to be my favorite Bruce Lee movie, I think. And now it's gonna bother me. I gotta get the name of it real quick. So I'm not working right now, but I'm just gonna check the internet for a Bruce Lee movie title. Let's see here. The Way of the Dragon? I think that's it. No, that's the one in Italy. That's the one with Chuck Norris. Fist of Fury. Fist of Fury. That's the one. Yes. Enter the Dragon right there. And Enter the Dragon, like all the parts with him are great, and all the parts with oh god, no, I want to get his name right. Was a martial arts star in his own right. Jim Kelly, that's right. I knew it was Jim. I couldn't remember his last name. Jim Kelly was really fun in that movie too. I wanted more Bruce in it. But Enter the Dragon's, it's a Stone Cold classic. It is. But for my money, that other one was like, I think the superior Bruce Lee experience. But so that would have been it. But I don't think when I actually started building a list, like a Bruce Lee movie didn't even come close. I love those movies, but there are just a lot of movies I love more. So. I'm totally down for that. Totally down for that. Yeah, for sure. It would just be if Jim has any. The trick with some of these top fives are going to. Like, there are some things, even though, like, I brought it up, we were kind of spitballing things we might do. And somehow we got on the topic of things where I wouldn't have much to contribute. Like, I don't know anything really about it. And one example would be like, if we had to do like top 5 hip hop albums or something, I don't know. That was never my thing, so I have no idea. But for Jim, it would be. And so like we were playing with the idea of like, would that be sort of fun anyway, even if one person clearly doesn't know what the hell they're talking about? Or is like, no, should we do ones where we both at least feel like we have something to say? Because like I would love to do, of course, top 5 video games of all time, personal faves. But Jim isn't nearly like, I think when we were talking about it, his last gaming was pretty much like Sega Genesis era, and there's not a lot. So I don't know if that's like if that's as interesting. So I think we might. I would lean toward things where we both feel like we can come up with a 5 that we feel confident in. feeling good about these dinosaur feathers, guys. I think maybe I'm making the progress I was not making last night. Yes. Yes, that's better. Okay. Hold on here. Oh, you're struggling. It would. It also sounds like to me some kind of weird thing an old guy in a bad sitcom would say when he was frustrated. Oh, dinosaur feathers. Something like that. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Why couldn't this have happened last night? It would have made my life easier. Would have been a little less panicked. This is tough. This is a weird thing. It's funny. Like, I think we all talk a lot about, I talk a lot about butt and chair, butt and chair. Just do the work. Just got to work. Just got to be one foot in front of the other. No excuses. The whole thing. But I think we all know, people who do this, we all secretly know, and it's frustrating and it's tough. There's just some days where it's not going to happen. Not even necessarily days, but like, little stretches within a day where it's not happening, and there is no point. There's no, if you're trying to force it, it's just going to suck. It's just not going to work. And you're going to end up redoing it anyway. So what's the point? And that's where I was last night, where I was like, I could finish this and it's going to be garbage and I'm going to redo it tomorrow. So why am I even doing it? Like, it's not. But I think I'm very careful with that, because that can be a cop-out and an excuse for people who aren't doing butt and chair, There are people like, I'm not feeling it. I'll do it when I feel it. You can't do that. It's just sometimes it's when you're working and working and working, and it is garbage every swing. You're just whiffing the bat every time. There is a point where if you've done this enough, like, it's not happening tonight. It's just not going to happen. And better just to call it and catch up tomorrow. So, yeah, that's it. And you need to fight it. You need to resist it just to be sure. Because there have been lots of times where it's like, it's not working. And then suddenly it works. And you're like, okay. But sometimes it's just never going to happen, and you need to step away. Even if it's for like just an hour, you need to just kind of get a little bit of distance, reset your brain a little bit, and then. What's the coolest thing you stumbled upon when researching for this book? Let me think about that. I do love the research part of it. of these books. So there's always fun things like to learn about that I didn't know anything about before. And like, so I wouldn't name this as my favorite thing or the coolest thing, but I have soldiers in this one. The military is sort of like cars and guns, where there's people out there who know that stuff really, really well, and they will be very, very checked out if you get something wrong. So anytime you have a soldier, you got to figure out like, well, what's their uniform look like? What kind of equipment do they carry? What does their belt look like? But then also, what would their ranks be? If you've got a guard at a post, what plausibly would his rank be? If you have this person here, if you have that person there, what rank should that be? So that was kind of a fun thing. That wouldn't be I think the coolest. This is something once this is out and I'm not as worried about spoilers, I'm gonna do a video about it, but avoiding spoilers. There's a dinosaur in this comic that you're going to see a lot of. Like it's in many, many, many pages. And it's a weird dinosaur. It's part of why I picked it. And just trying to wrap my brain around how to draw it from different angles, from different distances. Like that really was, I was like, oh, that's going to be a drag. So I started looking for like toys or models or something I could get just to use as a rough still life reference, just to get a sense of like what its head it would sort of look like from this angle, or what its body sort of looks from that angle. And I couldn't find it because it's an obscure dinosaur. I couldn't really find any good examples that I was happy with. So I went down the rabbit hole of, I knew in town there's a Museum of Natural History that has a very good dinosaur section. And they've got a guy there, an artist, a paleo sculptor, who makes all the dinosaurs for it. He's phenomenal, very, very talented. And most importantly, especially for D versus M, designs them in a way that I think is very informed by the research and very plausible. You look at his and you say, like, that looks like I've talked about this in a past video. If you want to find it, Designing the Dinosaurs of 97. I like dinosaurs that look like they could be an animal, that you buy as an animal, not that look like weird dragons, not that look like weird monsters, that look like something that you believe lived on this planet, walked around and ate and pooped and mated and fought, and it just was a real animal, not like some movie special effect thing. And I think he does that. And I thought there's no way this will be a thing, but I'll see. I emailed him. I said, hey, I love your work. This is who I am. I make these comics. Hypothetically, what would you charge if I wanted a 1-to-1 scale bust of this dinosaur? Just so I at least have the head and neck to look at when I'm drawing. Thinking, oh, the price is going to be not even realistic. And he quoted me a price that it was, it's it's higher than, it wasn't an impulse purchase, but it was something that it was doable. And I was like, let me think about it. And I think it was only about a day. I was like, I'm just doing it. It'll help me with the drawing, and then I'll have this thing for the rest of my life. It'll be a cool little souvenir from the making of D vs. M 1979. And so I commissioned this thing. It took him a few months, and he put together this, basically, it looks like a dinosaur like trophy. Like I had shot it and mounted it to hang on the wall. That's what it looks like. And while the one in the comic doesn't look exactly the same because I have a different vision, it at least gets me in the ballpark, which is all I needed. It's almost like a little art doll where it just gets me a rough, gross anatomy approximation of where this thing would be. And if you looked at it head on or from the side or slightly from the back, like what anatomy do you see and not see? So it's been great, and I love looking at it. And so, like I said, once this book is out and done, and I'm less protective of that aspect of it, I'm eager to do a video about that. And I would love to drag Benjamin, the guy I went to at the museum, drag him on, for just to, for my audience to meet another creative who's got a very cool job. I mean, if I could do it all over and pick my career, I would love to be a paleo artist. I mean, I think it's very cool what they do. So I would love to just talk to him a little bit about his background and his work. Very talented guy. So anyway, it's also like the first real collaboration with another creative on a D versus M, where I cannot sculpt. My sculpting skills are very amateurish. And I thought about sculpting the bust for myself, and I just thought it's not going to be great. I need an expert. That's why I sought him out. It was a lot of fun. It was fun to collaborate. It's not something you do when you're the one-man show much. But it was fun. I went to him and I was like, this is the species I was thinking. And there was actually a broad category of dinosaurs, like particular species within that category. And we sort of talked about that back and forth a little bit, then finally settled on one. And then it was, where it was collaborating. Like I deferred to him a lot because I respect expertise. I respect earned authority, and this guy knows the stuff better than me. I'm as much as I know about the dinosaur stuff and read a lot about it, and it's very much a hobby of mine. I don't pretend to be an expert. This guy, this is his life. So I would usually say, well, I'm picturing something like this, but you have a lot of leeway. And anything he did, if I ended up thinking, I don't know how that's going to work drawn, or I don't know how that's going to work black and white, or what have you, I can change that. I can draw. I just need, more than anything else I needed, just give me the shape of his head and neck so I can rotate it around and see it from different angles and get a sense of how it would look. In terms of feathers and colors and textures and all that, have at it. Whatever you think looks cool. I trust you. This is why I'm going to you. I like your work. Make something you think looks good. And as long as it's the species I wanted, I can make it work for mine, and I can change anything I think needs to be changed. But you make me a piece, and that's what I want. So it was fun. This dinosaur rump is a little too hefty. There's a little too much junk in this dinosaur's trunk. I'm trying to slim this dinosaur booty down a little bit. Some of it is perspective in this case. The booty is going to look a little bit more than it actually is just because of the way it's arranged. But even still, I think this dinosaur is not that juicy. let's just talk about dinosaur booty. This new topic today, guys. Dinosaur booty. Wow, you can tell I am punchy. Been drawing this comic for a long time now, guys. I have wandered deep into the desert. Why isn't that working? No. Nope. Here's just a random thing, and I know it's kind of meaningless when you're not looking at it. The feathers on the body of this dinosaur, I imagined as sort of shaggy. Like kind of a... almost like an Icelandic sheep or something. Just a lot of like thick, shaggy, it's not a smooth brushed, it's like a lot of coarse, strange, shaggy feathers. And I imagined once I started drawing, that will make it easier because I can be sort of messy about it. And somehow, and I can't articulate why, it's made it harder. Like if it was just a very nice, like a golden retriever, long brushed, shiny hair, I think that would actually be much easier. The fact that it's kind of messy somehow makes it more complicated. And it could be because there's a fine line between bullshit scribbles and something that actually looks like messy, coarse feathers. It requires a little more effort to stay away from bullshit scribbles. So something I thought would be easy with this is not. It's kind of a pain. Yeah, that's a problem too, because these are like, this is a distance view where you kind of are seeing most of its body, and therefore you can't really generalize it, but you also, people have read Beaver's Them, they know there's a sort of a, I don't know, I don't think a lot about my style, but it's detailed but not. It's simplified but not. There are a lot of little details, but they'll be like generalized, things. And you can be too detailed with something like this. But you also, because it is a complicated thing, you can't just say like, well, at a distance, he's just black. Like that doesn't, you need to show that there's this texture and depth to the coat. Okay, time to save. It's getting closer. I'm happy with what I have. It's just happening more slowly than I want. That's not bad. No. Okay. Uh-huh. This is a dumb thing I have to do a little bit. Just because of the peculiarities of my Mac and I guess Illustrator. When I'm trying to visualize how will this print, what will this look like printed, I've found the most representative thing isn't viewing it in GPU mode in Illustrator, isn't viewing it in CPU mode in Illustrator. It's saving it, going to that folder on my Mac and hitting the spacebar to preview it. There's something about the Mac file preview that gives me a better sense of how it'll print than Illustrator itself. Illustrator itself tends to be a little pixelated, just barely. I think what it is actually the preview when you hit spacebar on your Mac. I think it anti-aliases it, which is a closer approximation of what's going to look like printed. Where when you're in Illustrator, there's no anti-aliasing, so you get a little bit of the stair-steppy pixelation on the fine lines and the curves and things like that. It seems weird to me. I mean, that's a thing that I can't, within Illustrator, get a sense of what I'm drawing, that I have to step out of it and just preview it with Mac's little file preview thing or image preview thing, but that's how it is. So, okay. So some of that is what I'm doing here. I'll draw and draw, and then save it, go to my desktop, see what it's looking like, and go back. But anyway, new Mac next year for sure. It's time. This one, I mean, I'm not mad at it at all. It's 2013. It's almost 10 years old. I didn't buy a top of the line thing when I bought it. And it's done a good job. That'll do, pig. That'll do, pig. Here's a little bit in the same vein of Josh's question about worst movie that was in the running to be in your top 5. one topic we played with was top 5 guilty pleasure movies. If you guys want to shout yours out, I can get us started. And none of these, I don't really actually, I have no problem talking about what I like. So it's not really a guilty pleasure, like, oh, I hope nobody knows. But it's like a movie that I know, like, if I said it as like one of my favorites, people would be like, okay. Mr. Mom. I love Mr. Mom. With Michael Keaton and Terry Garr. In a similar vein, this one actually I'm even less. That's not even a guilty pleasure. It could have been in my top 5. Tootsie. Tootsie is fantastic. Tootsie's a great movie. Like, again, no embarrassment there. I have no shame at all about that. So that Tootsie wouldn't rank, but Mr. Mom for guilty pleasures, maybe. That might be in there. I don't know if this is even a guilty pleasure, but Rocky Horror Picture Show. Rocky Horror Picture Show is pretty great. But it's like maybe sort of a guilty pleasure. Basic Instinct. There's one. That's a guilty pleasure. For sure. Because that movie is trash. That is just the trashiest movie, but in the best ways. It's just, it almost is like camp. It walks the right side of camp, where unlike Showgirls, also by Paul Verhoeven, Showgirls just comes off as just bad. And some people I know appreciate it as like a great bad movie. I don't even like it as a great bad movie. I just think it's bad. Basic Instinct to me is like on the correct side of that line, where it is such trash, but the best version of it. Big Business. Is that, I don't know that one. Is that a movie? Is that a guilty pleasure? I don't know what that is. What did I miss? Jim, we're talking top 5 guilty pleasure movies. What would be on your list? I named so far Mr. Mom and Rocky Horror and Basic Instinct. Are we saving guilty pleasures? I can stop right now. This is all off the top of my head. It would probably change when I actually had to commit. Because some of these I was explaining, like, I don't know if I even feel guilty about. I'm very comfortable with them. We need to settle on our next few. Like, we do need to decide, what past albums we need to, because I especially will want to start thinking about it. Squatch, I've been working almost this whole time. Don't listen, Jim. He's lying. He's not. That's not accurate. Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin. No, I don't know that one. All right. I was also thinking about this. You couldn't do it. I don't think you could make a top 5 out of this, but movies you loved, maybe like as a kid, you've never seen since, and you have a feeling they probably don't hold up. Like I said, that's not really, I don't know how you top 5 that, but like, for example, I've thought about this one a lot. I remember loving Dark Crystal. I have no idea if that movie holds up. I suspect it wouldn't. I don't know. But I'm thinking probably not. Another one would be like Beastmaster. I remember loving that as a kid. What would I think about it today if I watched it? I don't want to know. I like my happy memory of it. I don't think I want to rewatch Beastmaster. That's a good one. That's a good guilty pleasure. Oh my gosh. Look at this, everyone. Look at this.
Well, it's about time. I've been waiting too long.
How long have you been waiting? I didn't even know.
I've
been working.
3 hours.
Gosh, I've been working, looking at my illustrators. I didn't even see.
Look, I'm here with Leanne.
Hello.
And we're at the park. That's my niece and nephew, and that's the baby, the new baby. And just saying hi. We're using this as free communication.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say, you're doing the top 5. Why are you doing our top 5 guilty pleasures?
If we're gonna do guilty pleasures, I won't share anymore. I wasn't sure if that's That's why I was saying we need to settle on the top 5s. Like
Leanne was saying that she has a hard time doing a top 5. She doesn't really think in lists. She hates those questions, like lists, like when you have to make
your favorite.
Yeah.
So big thumbs down from Leanne on our new.
She likes us. But she wanted to say
top 5 passion projects.
Wait,
thumbs down by
ask
Leanne.
Leanne, what's your number 1 guilty pleasure movie?
Grease 2.
Grease 2.
But I'm not the only one.
At one point,
I thought it was even better than Grease 1. Oh my God, I can't believe I said that.
Do you still feel that way?
But I don't think that now. I don't know.
Okay. I don't. No.
Who else does he know?
Josh.
No, what's his name that likes Grease 2 too? Yeah, doesn't he do a podcast with
Kevin?
You guys, the black braids? The black braids.
Who? Wait. Often.
There's another Grease 2 fan out there?
Oh, Jamar. No, you don't know Jamar. No, Jamar Nicholas also liked Grease 2.
That's one of his favorites.
Yeah, no, Grease 2. That was.
He's never.
We had to go to marriage counseling for that. When she said Grease 2 was better than Grease 1.
Yeah.
And the counselor looked at her and said,
"This isn't going to work out."
Who does Jamar know?
A lot of people, but he doesn't know this crowd.
What crowd does he hang out with?
Yeah, they've got a taco right on there. And he's using
I don't know. We're having 2 conversations. So back to Grease 2.
Yeah. No.
But I mean, whatever. To each their own.
But that's a great choice for a guilty pleasure.
Or like my friend Nisam said, he has had a friend that always says, to eat their own.
To eat their own.
To eat their own. So my guilty pleasure, I'm going to give you my guilty pleasure movie then.
So are we not doing a top 5 guilty pleasure?
We will. I won't give you the other ones, but I'm going to give you
Okay. Give me one.
Because my number 1 guilty pleasure movie is on, am I ruining your show? I am. She's talking about this show, and I am.
This show? Yeah. Oh, it was ruined.
So,
13 episodes ago. Fine.
So my number 1 is the 1978 Sgt. Pepper's and Lonely Hearts Club Band, starring the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton. And it's in my top 20 favorite movies of all time.
You know what?
That is a fantastic guilty pleasure choice.
Yeah. Nick, can I show him? Can he make his debut? Wait, I want you to make the television debut of Julian Lujan.
Oh my God! Hello! Oh my God!
Who the?
Yeah, look at that hair! Look at that belly!
Julian, it's Jesus. He's got a podcast.
Oh no! Yeah, Jesus has a weekly comic stream. Yeah.
You just had all the pedophiles who watch your show are just in. They're clicking their heels right now.
Don't say that. Don't say that in front of them.
Don't say that in front of them. I'm sorry. I don't want you to lose. I'm sorry. I don't want you to lose viewers. But anyways, okay. So we'll do Thursday then. Thursday.
Yes, Thursday, 8:00.
Okay.
So get me your album covers.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that's an easy one too. By the way, that's a really easy one for me.
I think I'm done. I actually think I have.
Yeah, my top 5 don't rotate that much.
Yeah,
my top 10 do, but my top 5 are always, and number 1's always number 1 for me.
It was a little like movies where I think my number 1 spot was like very debated, and then there was like one artist where I had to pick one album.
Yeah,
and that was hard.
Yeah, and we'll see who sponsors this next week's episode as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see.
I had fun. I had so much fun doing that. So
it was great.
I really like these top 5s are really nice.
Yeah.
So okay, so all right, I'll let you go. You can tease the people with your top 5, but
on my music albums.
What I mean, whatever. Yeah, just don't get too many spoilers.
I did tease what I told you that it's going to out me as a alternative emo.
Yeah. All right. Go back to the park.
Okay.
This is all fake, by the way. This is all green screen.
I understand. Have fun in the studio.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Jim Lujan, everybody. Mannequin 2, that also would for sure be a guilty pleasure. For people, I can't say it's a guilty pleasure for me, but I'm familiar, and that would definitely be a candidate. Something one should feel guilty about. But I won't name anymore because apparently Jim is very excited about doing top 5 guilty pleasures. But the ones I threw out there, I think they would certainly be contenders. That's just off the top of my head, and I found from doing these that can change a lot once you really start committing to a list and ranking it. So maybe some of those would be on it, maybe they wouldn't, but we'll see. We shall see. Another one. Here's one. Now, I think we might do this one, so I'm not going to answer on this one. Think about top 5 movies everybody seems to love and you hate. Think about that. What would it be? I had 2 that immediately came to mind when we started talking about it. And then the flip side of that, 2 movies that everybody seems to hate that you love. Yeah, Titanic, I would have to think about Titanic for a movie that everyone seems to love that you don't like. But I don't know if hate, I don't think it creeps into hate. I just kind of don't like it. I think it's kind of broad and like, I don't know. As much of a little class warrior as I am deep down, as much as I talk about the fancy whites and talk about Paradise Valley charging me $250 for speeding, I really get turned off when I see like open class warfare stuff in movies. Like because it just seems so heavy-handed and so caricature-ish. And like that was something that turned me off about Titanic, where it was just like, look how the poor are so cool and fun and live in life and have so much wisdom. And look how the rich are all like mustache twirling villains. Like that kind of stuff is like, give me a fucking break, man. Like this is stupid. definitely for a movie that everyone hates, that I love, though everyone doesn't hate it. It's very much like a split thing. I'd have to probably mention The Last Jedi. So now, there we go. Another episode where The Last Jedi is mentioned. I do love The Last Jedi. And I know a lot of people do not. That's fine. That's fine. They're wrong, but it's fine. Lots of wrong people in the world. What can you do? Squatch, have a good day. I'm working hard, Squatch. I wish you could see how it's coming together, but you're just going to have to wait till it's done. That looks pretty good. The one nice thing about this page and this dinosaur I'm drawing is its position. Like, I will basically be able to repeat it. This dinosaur, this view of it is in 3 panels, but it doesn't change at all. So I just need to get it right once, basically, and then I'm just going to basically be copying and pasting. There's little changes I have to make for each one, but if I only really need to get it once. So even though if you look at the page right now, it seems like there's a lot that's unfinished. It's all I have to do is finish it in this one panel, and then I can port it over, and we're good. Actually, okay, we're going to do the test. I'm going to do the file preview test. I think I might be real happy with the body. Like, maybe I can move on to the head. I think I'm going to just try and make that work. I think that might be okay. It needs a little bit of finessing here and there, but I think that's basic. That's the ballpark. So, all right. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Needs a little bit right there and a little bit of something right there. And then there needs to be a shadow right there. But otherwise, I think that works for the body. Now I just need to do kind of a head and neck, which is not as complicated. So I'm in the home stretch, I think. I still intend, and I'm curious. I've put out this call before, and I don't think anybody in my circle has, but wait, I can try it. Okay, cool. I'm kind of curious if anyone else has. I'm sorry, I'm talking and doing a complicating thing at the same time. I'm trying to get something right. Okay. I'm kind of curious if anybody else has done a float tank, sensory deprivation tank, any of that. Something I've thought about. I've done it a couple times and intend to do it again. And I thought, like, if I was ever working and no one was guesting and I needed something to talk about, I would share my experiences with it. I'm not ready to today, especially we've already gone an hour and 20, and I'll probably wrap it up pretty soon. But if anybody else has had that experience, it would be nice to plan to have them on so we could compare notes, because I suspect it's a very individual. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap, but I think the experience is probably very unique to each person. I would like to hear about someone else's experience. What would you say the selling point of it is? I would say so. I'm not like some crazy master or anything. But I do enjoy and I'm interested in and have practiced for a few years now meditation. And a lot of the idea of meditation is, or at least the kind that I'm doing, is I'm trying to think of the easiest way to explain this. The idea that what you normally think about as yourself, you as an individual, what you are, the way you normally think about it, is actually a little too sprawling and outside of what is actually the most essential and central part of you. That a lot of how you think about yourself is your reaction to stimuli and your reaction to emotions you're having and your reaction to thoughts you're having and the thoughts that your brain is generating. And like, so all this stuff is swirling around you. I think meditation tries to get you in touch with this idea that you, yourself, is something more inside of that. It's not you are not your thoughts, you are not your feelings, you are not your reactions, you are not all that is something else. That you are the part that occupies the quiet, the deepest part of it, the part that's in the eye of the storm of experience. Okay. And in meditation, usually you're chasing that. You're trying to find that space, that part, like the essential part of you, the quiet part. Chase is a bad word, and that's kind of contrary to the whole idea, but I'm just, trying to come up with an easy way to explain this. A sensory deprivation tank or a float tank, in a way, it's almost like a hack to get there. You find, in my experience, and we'll talk about it more when I do a thing about this, usually do an hour in this thing. For people who are unfamiliar, it's like a saltwater tank. It's super salinated, so it's like the Dead Sea, like you float in it very easily. You don't have to do anything to like float in it. Like you can't sink yourself in it. Like that's because there's so much salt water in it, or salt in the water. You float in this thing in the center. You're not touching the sides. You close the door, and it is inky pitch black. And in theory, you don't hear anything. You don't see anything. You're not feeling anything. It's like you're floating in space. And the first 20 minutes or so, your mind is still like in kind of normal day-to-day mode where it's searching, trying to come up with things. It's presenting thoughts to you. You're sitting there wondering, like, is this going to do anything? Oh my God, an hour is going to be a long time. What if I fall asleep? Like, your brain is still da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But you find that your mind starts getting slowly starved or almost suffocated of input, of stimulus. And it changes. And you start to get a sense of yourself without stimuli. And that's where, like, you can have very strange experiences and very weird, visions is a little strong, but think about things a little differently, and you can visualize things a little bit differently. And you have a different sense of yourself that usually you can't get at because of the din of existence, the din of just life, the cacophony, Usually you realize that a lot of what you think of as you is your habitual reaction to just everything going on around you. That it's not actually what you are. You are somehow, again, in the eye of that storm. There's something more basic about you that you usually it's very hard to get in touch with. That to me and that's where there's interesting, like, experiences that I think would be very hard to get otherwise. It'd have to be a lot of intense meditation, maybe psychedelics. I don't know. I've never tried them. But like it's just a realm of experience that's a little hard to get into without that assist. And that's what's kind of fascinating about it. Yeah, so, and that's why I've been like, who else has done this? Because I'd like to talk to you about what it was like for you. All right, I'm at a point now. I've got a dinosaur body that I'm pretty happy with, that I think I can more or less copy and paste into these two other panels, and that'll work. I need to do the head and neck, which is a little more finessey. There's a pattern that I came up with for this animal that, I gotta compare to past pages to make sure I'm sort of being consistent with how I'm doing the coat and the pattern. So I probably am gonna wind down the stream. So we're at about the hour and a half. Definitely a possibility. I don't have, I'm not claustrophobic at all, but I could imagine, and I have to say, the first time I did it, the first time that light goes off and you close the door, like you worry, like, is this where I'm gonna discover I'm claustrophobic? Because if you are, this would probably be the time. But there's also, you can actually control, at least the place that I've gone, you can control how, you can control the intensity of the experience, if intensity is the right word. You can leave the door cracked. There is actually a little light thing. You can have like a dim light in there if that helps you. Like, you could do little things. But if you're after a true, like, sensory deprivation experience where you want to see what it's like to have virtually no input from the outside, then obviously you'd want to try keeping the door closed, light off. They give the option, like, do you want to listen to music? And it's like, new agey spa music. It's it's like weird background. Like, I'm trying to go after the, like, who am I in the void? That's what I'm chasing. Someone else might just I want to chill for an hour. And in that case, sure, bring your iPod. Play your Pink Floyd, whatever your thing is. I don't know. But, like, I'm trying to do a different thing in there. So you and me both, man. More and more dinosaur with every passing year. All right. I'm going to wind it down. everyone, keep a lookout for a hour-long show Thursday night, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Jim and Gary's top 5 albums of all time. I'm prepared to be mocked. I actually have no idea. I don't know. I have no sense of what other people will think of my list, but this is my list. So it's going to be on there. I'm dying to see Jim's, and I'm dying especially for conversation. Show up in the chat, leave yours in the comments, whatever you want to do. I'm looking forward to maybe like Paul, like he did with the movie thing, like maybe later someone will do their video. Let's get it going. Let's talk. If our casters moves up an hour, we're going to have a problem. Now I'm going to start to suspect sabotage. Sabotage, Beastie Boys is not on my top 5. Could be, though. Could be. Strong contender. Anyway, all right, guys. It's good to see you this weekend. I hope you all are productive in whatever you're trying to work on. I am going to finish page 28. I'm going to set a reasonable goal of, what is this? It's 12:30. Giving myself 2 hours. I think in 2 hours I can have page 28 done and start setting up page 29. That's conservative. I was going to say an hour, but I'm getting better at being realistic about what needs to be done and how long it takes me. I'm going to say 2 hours. We'll see how close I get. Okay. Peace and love. Peace and love. Talk to you guys later. Bye.